Sarah Mitchell had always been different from other girls in her small Texas town. While her classmates spent their weekends at the mall or gossiping about boys, she could be found in the backyard with her grandfather's old rifle, practicing her aim on tin cans lined up on wooden fence posts. Her father, a retired Army sergeant, had taught her to shoot when she was just 8 years old. But it was her grandfather who truly nurtured her natural talent. At 17, Sarah was tall and lean, with calloused hands that spoke of countless hours spent handling firearms. Her brown hair was usually pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her green eyes held a focus that made adults uncomfortable. She moved with the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly what they were capable of, but in the halls of Jefferson High School, that confidence was often mistaken for arrogance. The other students whispered about the weird girl who spent her lunch breaks reading military magazines instead of fashion blogs. They called her names like G.I. Jane and Army Brat, never bothering to learn that she actually came from a long line of military service members who had served their country with honor. Her great-grandfather had fought in World War II, her grandfather in Vietnam, and her father in Desert Storm. Military service wasn't just a career choice in the Mitchell family. It was a calling that ran through their blood like a sacred tradition. Sarah's shooting skills were legendary in her small town, but that fame came with a price. Local boys felt threatened by a girl who could outshoot them at the county fair every single year. Girls found her intimidating and strange, unable to relate to someone whose idea of fun was spending hours at the shooting range perfecting her technique. Even some of her teachers looked at her with barely concealed disapproval, as if her interests were somehow inappropriate for a young woman. The isolation didn't bother Sarah as much as it should have. She had grown up listening to her grandfather's stories about Marine Corps marksmanship competitions, about the brotherhood forged in the crucible of shared challenges and mutual respect. She dreamed of a world where her skills would be valued rather than mocked, where precision and discipline were celebrated instead of ridiculed. Every night she fell asleep imagining herself in dress blues, standing at attention with other Marines who understood what it meant to pursue excellence without compromise. Her guidance counselor, Mrs. Henderson, had tried repeatedly to steer Sarah toward more traditional paths. College brochures for teaching programs and nursing schools appeared regularly on Sarah's desk, accompanied by gentle suggestions about finding more suitable interests for a young lady. But Sarah's heart belonged to the Corps, and nothing anyone said could change her mind about her future. She had already spoken to the local Marine recruiter, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, who had been impressed by her test scores and physical fitness levels. The day that would change everything started like any other. Sarah arrived at school early, as was her habit, and settled into her first period chemistry class. The morning announcements crackled over the intercom with the usual mix of sports scores and club meeting reminders. But then Principal Williams made an announcement that caused every head in the classroom to turn toward Sarah with expressions ranging from amusement to outright mockery. A group of Marines from the nearby base would be visiting the school that afternoon to demonstrate military equipment and discuss career opportunities. More importantly, they would be conducting a marksmanship demonstration that would include an open challenge to any students who thought they could compete with trained Marines. The principal's tone suggested he found the idea of high school students challenging professional soldiers to be amusing at best. Sarah's classmates immediately began snickering and pointing in her direction. "Hey, Sarah," called out Brad Hutchinson, the quarterback who had never missed an opportunity to belittle her interests. "Looks like you'll finally get your chance to prove you're as good as you think you are." His cronies erupted in laughter, already imagining the humiliation they expected Sarah to endure when she inevitably failed to live up to her reputation. But Sarah simply smiled and continued taking notes, her mind already calculating wind speeds and adjusting for different lighting conditions. She had been preparing for this moment her entire life, even though she hadn't known it would come in the form of a high school assembly. The Marines were coming, and she would finally have the opportunity to show everyone exactly what Sarah Mitchell was capable of achieving when she set her mind to something. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of whispered conversations and barely contained excitement. News of the Marine Challenge spread through the school like wildfire, with most students viewing it as entertainment rather than a serious competition. Teachers shook their heads at the prospect of teenage bravado meeting military precision, certain that any student foolish enough to accept the challenge would learn a valuable lesson about humility. Sarah spent her lunch period in the library, researching the standard Marine Corps rifle qualification course and reviewing everything she could find about military marksmanship standards. She wanted to be prepared for whatever format the demonstration might take, whether it involved stationary targets, timed courses, or varying distances. Her grandfather had always taught her that preparation was the key to success in any endeavor, and she wasn't about to let his lessons down when it mattered most. As the final bell rang and students began filing into the gymnasium for the assembly, Sarah took a deep breath and whispered a quiet prayer of gratitude to her grandfather, who had passed away the previous year. She knew he would be proud to see her representing the family tradition with grace and skill. Today she would show everyone that being different wasn't something to be ashamed of. It was something to be celebrated and respected. The gymnasium buzzed with excited chatter as students filled the bleachers, most of them more interested in getting out of afternoon classes than in any actual military demonstration. Sarah found a seat near the back, away from the clusters of popular kids who were already placing bets on how quickly any student challenger would embarrass themselves. She watched quietly as a group of 6 Marines entered through the side doors, their dress blue uniforms immaculate, and their bearing unmistakably professional. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Thompson led the group, a mountain of a man whose chest displayed an impressive array of ribbons and medals. Behind him walked Staff Sergeant Maria Santos, whose confident stride and sharp eyes immediately commanded respect from even the most disinterested students. The other 4 Marines moved with the same precise coordination, their polished boots clicking in perfect rhythm against the gymnasium floor as they approached the makeshift demonstration area. Principal Williams introduced the Marines with obvious nervousness, stumbling over their ranks and accomplishments while the students gradually quieted down. Gunnery Sergeant Thompson stepped forward to address the assembly, his voice carrying easily to every corner of the gymnasium without the aid of a microphone. He spoke about Marine Corps values, about the importance of discipline and dedication, but Sarah noticed that most of her classmates were more interested in the weapons display table than in his words. The demonstration began with basic military equipment, from combat gear to communication devices. Staff Sergeant Santos explained the importance of precision in everything Marines do, from physical fitness to academic achievement. She emphasized that becoming a Marine wasn't just about being tough or brave. It required intelligence, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to excellence in all areas of life. A few students seemed genuinely interested, taking notes and asking thoughtful questions. But the real excitement began when Gunnery Sergeant Thompson announced the Marksmanship Challenge. He explained that they had set up a laser-based shooting system that would simulate live fire conditions without the safety concerns of actual ammunition. The targets would be placed at varying distances, and participants would have 3 rounds to achieve the best possible score. Marines would demonstrate first, followed by any students brave enough to accept the challenge. The first Marine shooter was Corporal Jennifer Walsh, a petite woman whose unassuming appearance belied her expert marksmanship skills. She approached the firing line with calm confidence, checked her equipment with practiced efficiency, and settled into a textbook shooting position. The gymnasium fell silent as she aimed at the first target 50 meters away. Her first shot struck dead center, followed by 2 more that grouped so tightly they appeared to be a single hole in the target. The students erupted in appreciative applause, but Sarah noticed the subtle nods of approval passing between the other Marines. This wasn't a show for entertainment purposes. These were professionals demonstrating the standards they maintained every single day. Corporal Walsh's performance was followed by equally impressive displays from 2 other Marines, each one hitting their targets with precision that seemed almost superhuman to the watching teenagers. When Gunnery Sergeant Thompson asked for student volunteers, the gymnasium initially fell silent. The demonstrations had been so flawless that most students suddenly realized how foolish they would look attempting to compete with such obvious expertise. A few of the more athletic boys shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their earlier bravado evaporating in the face of professional military marksmanship. Finally, Brad Hutchinson stood up, unable to back down from a challenge in front of his peers without losing face. He swaggered down to the firing line amid cheers from his friends, making jokes about how hard it could possibly be to hit a target. His cockiness faltered slightly when Staff Sergeant Santos handed him the laser rifle, and began explaining the proper shooting stance. But he waved off most of her instruction with the confidence of someone who had been hunting since childhood. Brad's first shot missed the target completely, sailing high and to the right. His second attempt grazed the outer edge of the target, earning a few scattered claps from his supporters. His final shot struck closer to center, but his overall score was embarrassingly low compared to the Marine demonstrations. He returned to his seat amid sympathetic applause and good-natured ribbing from his teammates, his face flushed with embarrassment. 2 other students attempted the challenge with similar results. Jenny Morrison, who had claimed to be an expert archer, struggled with the different mechanics of rifle shooting. Mike Peterson, whose father was an avid hunter, managed respectable shots but nothing approaching military standards. With each failed attempt, the Marines' earlier performances seemed even more impressive, and the gap between professional and amateur became increasingly obvious. The assembly was beginning to wind down when Sarah finally stood up. A ripple of surprised murmurs spread through the gymnasium as she made her way down from the bleachers. Her classmates exchanged glances of disbelief and anticipation, some hoping to finally see the weird girl get her comeuppance, others genuinely curious about whether her local reputation was deserved. Sarah ignored the whispers and focused on the Marines, who watched her approach with professional interest rather than the amusement they had shown toward the previous challengers. Gunnery Sergeant Thompson handed her the laser rifle with the same courtesy he had shown the other students, but Sarah noticed Staff Sergeant Santos studying her more carefully. There was something in the way Sarah handled the weapon that suggested familiarity beyond casual experience. Her grip was confident, her finger discipline perfect, and her stance indicated years of proper instruction, rather than amateur enthusiasm. Sarah took her position at the firing line and began her preparation routine, the same one her grandfather had taught her years ago. She checked the rifle's balance, adjusted her stance for optimal stability, and took several deep breaths to slow her heart rate. The gymnasium gradually quieted as students sensed that something different was about to happen. Even the Marines leaned forward slightly, recognizing the signs of someone who truly understood the fundamentals of marksmanship. Sarah settled into her shooting position with the fluid grace of someone who had performed this routine thousands of times. Her left foot stepped slightly forward. Her body angled naturally toward the target, and her breathing fell into the controlled rhythm her grandfather had drilled into her since childhood. The laser rifle felt different from her familiar weapons, but the principles remained the same. Steady position, consistent sight picture, smooth trigger pull. The first target appeared at 75 meters, a more challenging distance than what the previous students had attempted. Sarah's eyes focused on the target through the rifle's sight system, her peripheral vision noting but dismissing the hundreds of watching faces around her. She could hear her grandfather's voice in her memory, reminding her to let her natural respiratory pause guide the timing of her shot. Everything else faded away except the target and the crosshairs floating steadily in her vision. Her first shot broke with surgical precision, the laser beam striking the target's center ring with an accuracy that drew a sharp intake of breath from Staff Sergeant Santos. The electronic scoring system immediately displayed a near-perfect score, causing murmurs of surprise to ripple through the gymnasium. But Sarah didn't pause to acknowledge the reaction. She was already transitioning to the second target, her mind calculating the slight adjustment needed for the increased distance. The second target had been placed at 100 meters, the same distance used for Marine Corps rifle qualification. Sarah's breathing remained controlled as she acquired her sight picture, her body maintaining the rock-steady position that had been refined through years of dedicated practice. The gymnasium had fallen completely silent now, with even the most disinterested students recognizing that they were witnessing something extraordinary. Sarah's second shot struck with the same devastating accuracy as her first, the electronic scoring system registering another near-perfect hit. Several Marines exchanged glances of professional respect, recognizing the level of skill required to achieve such consistency under pressure. Gunnery Sergeant Thompson found himself leaning forward involuntarily, his experienced eye noting the flawless form and mental discipline that Sarah displayed with each shot. The final target appeared at the maximum distance the system allowed, 150 meters. This was beyond the standard qualification distance, a range that challenged even experienced military marksmen. Sarah took an extra moment to study the target, making minute adjustments to account for the increased distance, and the slight air current. She could feel moving through the gymnasium's ventilation system. Her final shot seemed to hang in the air for an eternity before striking the target with pinpoint accuracy. The electronic system registered a perfect score, a feat that none of the Marines had achieved during their earlier demonstration. The gymnasium erupted in stunned applause, with students jumping to their feet in amazement and disbelief. Even Principal Williams was applauding enthusiastically, his earlier skepticism completely forgotten. But the most meaningful recognition came from the Marines themselves. Staff Sergeant Santos approached Sarah with a look of genuine respect, her professional demeanor unable to hide her impressed surprise. Gunnery Sergeant Thompson nodded approvingly as he examined the scoring system, confirming what everyone had witnessed. The other Marines gathered around, their body language showing the kind of respect reserved for proven marksmen rather than high school students. "Where did you learn to shoot like that?" Staff Sergeant Santos asked, her tone carrying the curiosity of one professional speaking to another. Sarah explained her family's military tradition, her grandfather's patient instruction, and the countless hours she had spent perfecting her technique. The Marines listened with growing interest, recognizing the dedication and discipline required to achieve such skill at such a young age. Gunnery Sergeant Thompson asked about Sarah's future plans, his question carrying implications that weren't lost on the watching students. When Sarah mentioned her intention to enlist in the Marine Corps after graduation, several Marines nodded in approval. Staff Sergeant Santos began discussing advanced marksmanship programs and competitive shooting teams, opportunities that were available to Marines who demonstrated exceptional ability. The conversation continued for several minutes, with the Marines treating Sarah as a peer rather than a student. They discussed training techniques, equipment preferences, and the mental aspects of competitive shooting. Sarah answered their questions with the knowledge and enthusiasm of someone who had studied the subject extensively, impressing the Marines with her understanding of advanced marksmanship concepts. Meanwhile, the students in the bleachers sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had just witnessed. The weird girl they had mocked for years had just outperformed an entire squad of professional Marines with apparent ease. Brad Hutchinson looked particularly uncomfortable, remembering his earlier taunts and his own embarrassing performance. Jenny Morrison stared at Sarah with newfound respect, finally understanding that her classmates' interests weren't strange quirks but genuine expertise. As the assembly concluded and students began filing out of the gymnasium, many of them stopped to congratulate Sarah or ask questions about her shooting. The same classmates who had ridiculed her military interests just hours earlier now seemed eager to associate themselves with someone who had achieved something truly remarkable. Sarah accepted their attention graciously, but without satisfaction, knowing that their attitudes had changed only because her abilities had been publicly validated. The Marines lingered after the official demonstration ended, continuing their conversation with Sarah about military opportunities and training programs. Staff Sergeant Santos handed Sarah her business card, encouraging her to maintain contact throughout her senior year. Gunnery Sergeant Thompson mentioned several advanced training programs that would be available to someone with Sarah's natural ability and dedication to excellence. As Sarah finally left the gymnasium, she carried herself with the same quiet confidence she had always possessed, but now that confidence was backed by public recognition of her exceptional abilities. The girl who had been mocked by all had proven herself worthy of respect from the best marksman the Marine Corps had to offer. Her journey toward earning the respect of everyone who had doubted her was just beginning, but the foundation had been firmly established in front of the entire school. The days following the Marine demonstration marked a dramatic shift in Sarah's high school experience. Students who had previously avoided her now sought her out in the hallways, eager to be associated with someone who had achieved something genuinely impressive. Teachers looked at her with newfound respect, and even Mrs. Henderson stopped pushing college brochures for nursing programs. The entire school seemed to view Sarah through a different lens, one that finally recognized her exceptional abilities. But Sarah remained focused on her original goal, enlisting in the Marine Corps after graduation. Staff Sergeant Santos had maintained regular contact, providing information about advanced training opportunities and competitive shooting programs. More importantly, word of Sarah's performance had spread throughout the regional Marine Corps network, attracting attention from recruiters and training instructors who specialized in developing elite marksmen. 3 weeks after the school demonstration, Sarah received a call that would change the trajectory of her military career before it even began. Master Sergeant David Chen, the head of the Marine Corps Competitive Marksmanship Program for the Southwestern region, had heard about her performance and wanted to meet her in person. He arranged to visit during one of Sarah's weekend practice sessions at the local shooting range, bringing along equipment and targets that would provide a more comprehensive assessment of her abilities. The meeting took place on a crisp Saturday morning at the civilian range where Sarah had been practicing since middle school. Master Sergeant Chen arrived in civilian clothes, but his bearing and presence immediately identified him as career military to anyone with experience. He watched quietly as Sarah completed her usual warm-up routine, noting the consistency of her form and the precision of her shot placement across multiple distances and positions. Master Sergeant Chen then introduced tests that went far beyond basic marksmanship. He assessed Sarah's ability to engage multiple targets in rapid succession, her accuracy while moving between different shooting positions, and her performance under various types of pressure and distraction. Each challenge was designed to evaluate not just her current skill level, but her potential for development under advanced military training programs. Sarah exceeded expectations in every category. Her natural shooting ability was complemented by mental toughness and adaptability that impressed even Master Sergeant Chen, who had worked with Olympic-level competitive shooters throughout his career. Her scores consistently fell within ranges typically achieved only by Marines, with years of specialized training and competition experience. Most remarkably, her performance remained steady regardless of the pressure or complexity of the challenges. Following the assessment, Master Sergeant Chen explained an opportunity that few high school students ever received. The Marine Corps maintained a small elite program for exceptional marksmen who showed potential for international competition and advanced tactical applications. Participants received specialized training that went far beyond standard military marksmanship, including instruction from Olympic coaches and access to state-of-the-art equipment and facilities. The program required a 6-year commitment following basic training, but it offered opportunities that aligned perfectly with Sarah's interests and abilities. Graduates often went on to become marksmanship instructors, competitive shooting team members, or specialized tactical operators. The training was intense and demanding, but for someone with Sarah's natural ability and dedication, it represented the pinnacle of military marksmanship achievement. Sarah accepted the opportunity immediately, understanding that it represented the fulfillment of dreams she had harbored since childhood. Master Sergeant Chen explained the next steps. Completing her senior year while maintaining her current training regimen, participating in regional competitions to gain experience under formal rules, and preparing for the physical and mental demands of Marine Corps basic training, followed by Advanced Marksmanship School.news of Sarah's selection for the elite program spread quickly through her high school and local community. The local newspaper ran a feature story about the hometown girl who had impressed professional Marines and earned a spot in an exclusive military program. The article included quotes from her former critics, who now spoke admiringly about her dedication and achievement. Even Brad Hutchinson was quoted expressing his respect for Sarah's accomplishment. The recognition extended beyond her immediate community. Regional shooting organizations invited Sarah to participate in civilian competitions, offering her opportunities to test her skills against experienced adult competitors. These events provided valuable experience in formal competitive environments, while allowing her to represent her school and town with distinction. Her performance in these competitions further validated the Marines' assessment of her exceptional ability. Sarah's relationship with her classmates continued to evolve throughout her senior year. The same students who had once mocked her interests now sought her advice about military careers and asked detailed questions about her training regimen. She found herself becoming an unofficial mentor to younger students who showed interest in military service or competitive shooting, sharing the lessons her grandfather had taught her about discipline and dedication. Teachers also began incorporating Sarah's achievements into their lessons, using her story as an example of how pursuing excellence in any field could lead to unexpected opportunities. Her physics teacher discussed the ballistics principles that governed long-range shooting, while her history teacher highlighted the role of marksmanship in military tradition. Sarah's success had become a source of pride for the entire school. As graduation approached, Sarah maintained her rigorous training schedule while completing her academic requirements. Master Sergeant Chen provided additional coaching and equipment, ensuring that she would enter Marine Corps basic training with skills that exceeded those of typical recruits. Her civilian shooting mentor, the range owner who had watched her develop since middle school, donated advanced equipment to support her continued development. The transformation was complete. The girl who had once been mocked by all was now respected by everyone who knew her story. Her exceptional marksmanship abilities had earned recognition from military professionals, civilian competitors, and her local community. But more importantly, Sarah had proven to herself that staying true to her interests and maintaining dedication to excellence could overcome any amount of initial skepticism or ridicule. As she prepared for the next phase of her journey, Sarah reflected on the lessons she had learned about perseverance and self-belief. The same qualities that had sustained her through years of mockery and isolation were now carrying her toward opportunities she had only dreamed about. The Marine Corps awaited, along with challenges that would test every aspect of her character and ability. Marine Corps Recruit Depot Paris Island welcomed Sarah with the same brutal intensity it reserved for every recruit who stepped off the bus into the controlled chaos of military transformation. The drill instructors showed no favoritism toward the girl with exceptional marksmanship scores, treating her with the same demanding standards applied to every recruit seeking to earn the title of Marine. For the first time since her high school demonstration, Sarah found herself in an environment where her previous achievements meant nothing until she proved herself all over again. Basic training tested every aspect of Sarah's character in ways that competitive shooting never had. The physical demands pushed her body to limits she hadn't known existed, while the mental pressure challenged her ability to maintain focus under extreme stress. Her drill instructors seemed determined to break down every recruit's civilian identity before building them back up as Marines, and Sarah discovered that her quiet confidence could be perceived as arrogance if not tempered with humility and teamwork. The first few weeks were particularly challenging, as Sarah learned to balance her individual excellence with the collective success required in military units. Her platoon struggled with various training objectives, and Sarah had to resist the urge to outpace her fellow recruits in favor of helping them achieve the minimum standards necessary for everyone to advance together. This lesson in leadership through service rather than dominance would prove invaluable throughout her military career. When the platoon finally reached the rifle range for marksmanship qualification, Sarah's drill instructors watched with professional interest to see if her reputation was deserved. They had reviewed her file and knew about her civilian achievements, but Marine Corps standards were different from high school demonstrations. The qualification course required precision under time pressure, with scoring that determined not just pass or fail, but also advancement to advanced marksmanship programs. Sarah's performance on the rifle range exceeded even the elevated expectations of her instructors. She achieved a perfect score on her first attempt, a feat accomplished by fewer than 1% of recruits. Her shooting was so consistently excellent that other recruits began gathering to watch her fire, learning from her technique and benefiting from her patient instruction during practice sessions. The drill instructors noted her natural teaching ability alongside her exceptional shooting skills. More importantly, Sarah used her marksmanship success to elevate her entire platoon's performance. She spent extra hours helping struggling recruits understand sight alignment, breathing techniques, and trigger control. Her patient instruction and encouragement helped several recruits who had been in danger of failing the marksmanship requirements achieve passing scores. The drill instructors observed her leadership potential and noted it in her evaluation reports. Following basic training graduation, Sarah was immediately assigned to the School of Infantry for advanced combat training before proceeding to her specialized marksmanship program. The School of Infantry provided her first opportunity to apply her shooting skills in tactical scenarios that simulated real combat conditions. She learned to engage targets while moving, shooting from cover and concealment, and maintaining accuracy under simulated enemy fire. Her instructors at the School of Infantry were experienced combat veterans who had served in Iraq and Afghanistan. They recognized Sarah's potential immediately, but also understood that exceptional marksmanship was only one component of effective combat performance. They challenged her to develop skills in small unit tactics, communication, and decision-making under pressure that would complement her natural shooting ability. Sarah thrived in this environment, absorbing tactical knowledge with the same intensity she had once devoted to perfecting her shooting technique. She learned to read terrain, estimate ranges without instruments, and coordinate with other Marines to achieve mission objectives. Her instructors noted that she possessed the rare combination of individual excellence and team awareness that characterized the most effective military leaders. The culmination of her School of Infantry training came during a complex field exercise that tested all the skills she had developed. Sarah's unit was tasked with neutralizing multiple targets while advancing across difficult terrain under simulated enemy fire. She served as the designated marksman for her squad, providing precision fire support while her teammates maneuvered against the objectives. During the exercise, Sarah's squad encountered a scenario that required immediate adaptation when their original plan was compromised by unexpected enemy positions. Sarah quickly identified high-value targets that threatened her teammates' advance and engaged them with precision that allowed the squad to complete their mission successfully. Her performance during this exercise earned recognition from senior instructors and secured her selection for the Advanced Marksmanship program. The transition to Advanced Marksmanship School brought Sarah into contact with Marines from throughout the Corps who had demonstrated exceptional shooting ability. For the first time since high school, she was surrounded by peers who shared her passion for precision shooting and understood the dedication required to achieve excellence. The competitive environment pushed everyone to higher levels of performance while fostering mutual respect and professional development. Advanced Marksmanship School introduced Sarah to shooting disciplines she had never encountered as a civilian. She learned to engage targets at extreme distances using advanced optics and ballistic computers. She mastered shooting from helicopters and boats, maintaining accuracy despite unstable platforms and challenging conditions. Most challenging of all, she learned to make split-second decisions about when to take shots and when to hold fire in complex tactical scenarios. Her instructors at Advanced Marksmanship School were among the best shooters in the world, including former Olympic competitors and world record holders who had transitioned to military service. They pushed Sarah beyond her natural abilities, teaching her advanced techniques and mental approaches that transformed good shooting into exceptional performance. Under their guidance, she began competing in military marksmanship competitions at the national level. Sarah's first major competition as a Marine came at the annual All-Marine Corps Championships, where she competed against the best marksmen from throughout the Corps. The competition included multiple shooting disciplines and distances, testing every aspect of marksmanship skill developed during her training. Sarah's performance earned her a spot on the Marine Corps competitive shooting team and recognition as one of the rising stars in military marksmanship. The girl who had once been mocked for her interests was now representing the Marine Corps in competitions against the best shooters from all branches of the military. Her journey from isolated high school student to elite military marksman had required not just exceptional natural ability but also the character to persevere through challenges and the wisdom to use her talents in service of something greater than individual achievement. 3 years after graduating from high school, Sergeant Sarah Mitchell stood at the firing line of the National Rifle Matches at Camp Perry, Ohio, representing the United States Marine Corps against the best military and civilian marksmen in the world. The shy girl who had once eaten lunch alone while reading military magazines was now competing at the highest levels of international marksmanship, her dress blue uniform adorned with ribbons that testified to her exceptional achievements in service to her country. The National Rifle Matches represented the pinnacle of American marksmanship competition, drawing competitors from every branch of the military, law enforcement agencies, and civilian shooting organizations. Sarah had earned her place on the Marine Corps team through consistent excellence in regional and national competitions. But this was her first opportunity to compete against Olympic-level shooters and world record holders on the sport's biggest stage. As she prepared for her first relay, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. The mockery and isolation of high school seemed like memories from another person's life, replaced by the respect and camaraderie of fellow Marines who valued excellence and dedication. Her grandfather's patient instruction had provided the foundation, But years of military training had transformed natural ability into precision that few shooters in the world could match. The competition format tested every aspect of marksmanship skill across multiple days and various shooting positions. Sarah would compete in events ranging from rapid-fire pistol to long-range rifle, each discipline requiring different techniques and mental approaches. Her Marine Corps training had prepared her for this diversity, teaching her to excel across all shooting disciplines rather than specializing in just one area. Sarah's first event was the President's Rifle Match, a grueling competition that combined precision shooting with physical endurance. Competitors fired from multiple positions across varying distances, with scoring that rewarded both accuracy and consistency over time. The morning was hot and humid, with wind conditions that challenged even experienced shooters to maintain precision throughout the extended course of fire. As Sarah settled into her first shooting position, she could hear her grandfather's voice reminding her to trust her training and maintain the fundamentals that had served her well throughout her development. The familiar routine of checking her equipment, establishing her sight picture, and controlling her breathing brought a sense of calm that allowed her to focus completely on the task at hand. The noise and pressure of competition faded into background awareness as she entered the zone of concentration that characterized elite performance. Her first shots established a rhythm that would carry her through the entire competition. Each round struck with the precision that had become her trademark, building a score that placed her among the leaders early in the competition. More importantly, her performance remained consistent across all positions and distances, demonstrating the complete mastery of fundamentals that separated elite shooters from merely good ones. As the competition progressed, Sarah found herself matched against shooters whose achievements she had studied and admired throughout her development. Former Olympic medalists, world record holders, and military legends competed alongside her with the mutual respect that characterized the shooting sports community. These competitors recognized her exceptional ability and welcomed her into their ranks as a peer, rather than a newcomer. The final day of competition brought Sarah to within striking distance of winning the President's Rifle Match, an achievement that would place her name alongside the greatest marksman in American history. The pressure was intense, with spectators and fellow competitors watching her every shot. But Sarah had learned to thrive under pressure, using the focused attention as motivation rather than distraction. Her final relay began under perfect conditions. With calm winds and excellent visibility that favored precision shooting, Sarah's shot struck with metronomic consistency, each round landing exactly where she intended despite the magnitude of the moment. Her score built steadily toward what everyone recognized as a potential record-breaking performance, with experienced spectators noting the flawless execution of every fundamental technique. When Sarah fired her final shot and the targets were scored, the results confirmed what everyone had witnessed. She had not only won the President's Rifle Match, but had also set a new competition record that exceeded the previous mark by a significant margin. The achievement earned her immediate recognition as one of the finest marksmen of her generation and established her reputation on the national shooting sports stage. The victory celebration was subdued but meaningful, with fellow competitors and officials offering congratulations that reflected genuine respect for exceptional achievement. Sarah accepted the recognition with the same quiet grace she had maintained throughout her development, understanding that the victory represented not just personal success, but validation of the training methods and values that the Marine Corps had instilled in her. Following the competition, Sarah was interviewed by shooting sports publications and military media outlets eager to learn about her background and training methods. She spoke about her grandfather's influence, the importance of fundamental techniques, and the role that Marine Corps training had played in her development. Her story resonated with young shooters and military personnel, who saw in her achievement proof that dedication and proper instruction could overcome any initial disadvantage. The recognition extended beyond the shooting sports community. When Sarah was selected to represent the United States at international military marksmanship competitions, this opportunity would take her around the world, competing against elite military marksmen from dozens of countries, while serving as an ambassador for American military excellence. The girl who had once been mocked for her interests was now representing her country on the global stage. As Sergeant Mitchell returned to her unit following the competition, She carried with her not just trophies and records, but also the knowledge that she had achieved everything her younger self had dreamed of and more. She had earned respect through excellence, transformed mockery into admiration, and proven that pursuing one's passion with dedication and integrity could lead to achievements beyond imagination. Her story continued to inspire others who faced similar challenges, showing them that being different wasn't a weakness to be hidden, but a strength to be developed and shared with the world.